Okay, so I'm very, I don't even know how to put it. It's almost like I kind of always wanted to make this video, but at the same time, I don't. Either way, I'm still going to make it anyhow because I feel like it's like everything is trying to happen, but it's not. Anyway, I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. More to the point, as you may have been able to tell, this video is about DLC 5. Now, I know already, just from mentioning even the word DLC 5 or even putting it in the title, people are going to be like, oh no, that's never going to happen, that's bullshit, no. And instantly, probably this video is going to get a billion dislikes for that. Fine, I can deal with that, to be honest, because I'm not going to say anything is concrete, because it's not. And I can't prove that it is either. So, for that reason, that's fair enough. If you don't like what you see, then you don't like what you see. Some people are quite, excited about a possible DLC 5. Some people are like, let's stop, it's never going to happen. I'm just here to see some of the points that others have made in the past, and also show some of the evidence that we got from Treyarch themselves. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm also going to say what I would like to see for DLC 5 if it ever came to be. Okay, so putting all the hate and stuff aside, so DLC 5, this thing, it's been around the zombies community now for ages. It started way back before even, when was it? It was like before Gorokovi. I think it was literally just after Zetsubo no Shima released. There was like all sorts of speculation about DLC 5 happening from all sorts of people just out of the blue. And I remember when I saw all this and I sat there going, wait, we haven't even had 3 and 4 yet, how are you predicting 5 already? And yeah, it was all a bit strange that was happening back then, so I don't blame anybody for just going, yeah, it's never going to happen, because it's way too early. Anyway, back to the point here. So, I could see why a DLC 5 would come to be in Black Ops 3, and why we might see some zombie maps return. There are a few reasons for this. Number one, Infinite Warfare has not done very well. Let's just put it this way, its sales are pretty poor. And I know that deep down, the zombies in Infinite Warfare is not for everyone. It's okay for some people, but a lot of people, mostly like me, don't really like Infinite Warfare zombies because it's just, it feels wrong, and there's also something about it that feels a bit too stupid for me, which I can't really take. So I'm not saying that it's a terrible design or anything. I mean, credit to Infinity Ward for actually making it in the first place. That's great. I'm just not a big fan of it, so that's my own opinion of it. I still play it, but I don't play it much. I only play it if I really want to see what like all the secrets and things are. But it's just sort of an iffy thing, really, isn't it? Infinite Warfare zombies, and as a result, that would probably make Activision sort of sit there and think to themselves, yeah, we need to sort out our market here because nobody's buying Infinite Warfare, meaning nobody's going to be actually spending money on our products, because the new COD's not doing very well. So as a result, where would they go back to? Well, of course they go back to the COD before it. Black Ops 3, which actually sold really well and actually is one of the most popular Call of Duties to date, and rightly so in some ways, because it is a really good game, and you can tell Treyarch put a lot of time and effort into it, so serious credit to them for that. But yes, so it would make perfect sense from a market point of view, a business point of view in general, for Activision to say to Treyarch, go ahead, make a DLC 5, we want people to start playing Call of Duty again, and we want to make a profit from it. Now, to the people that think that DLC 5 will be free, you could just sit there laughing, my friend. Let's put it this way, it's probably not going to be free. The likelihood of it being free is very minimal. Why would they bother making all of this just for free for a starter? Next of all, how's that going to help Activision? It just doesn't really add up, if you know what I mean. In all terms, it's not right. So I can't see that ever happening. So sorry, I don't think DLC 5, if it ever comes to be, will be free. You will pay for it. It just seems like the most common thing these days from Activision in general anyway, so there you go. Anyway, so there's that. Also, a point of view of looking at a possible DLC 5 is actually from Treyarch's perspective. The way they designed the Black Ops 3 storyline, which was a bit odd to me, is they have this sort of gap in the middle between DLC 2 Zetspo no Shima and DLC 3 Gorod Krovi, where obviously the Origins crew, they go to Mob of the Dead, they get some blood files for Nikolai, Takeo and Dempsey, which is the insurance plan, of course, for later on in Revelations, as everyone should know by now. And it seemed a bit odd that we never got to play that, because that, in my opinion, would have been quite interesting to play, and I would have, actually quite enjoyed it. But instead, we went straight to Gorod Krovi, which made sense, because obviously the story was quite important about killing off each character to get their soul. So, yes, that made sense that they did that. However, it leaves that gap in the middle all the time now, and yes, I know they do address it in Revelations at the end cutscene, where you see them with the blood files, fine, but it doesn't really go in depth enough about what happened there, what they were doing, how they got them, and even how Richtofen got his before freaking Origins. So, yeah, there's quite a big story gap here to fill. Also, if we look back at some of the quotes that we hear, like on the Giant, where Dempsey says that he has been to the moon, but the Origins Dempsey, not the original crew Dempsey. So it's obvious that he has been to the moon at some point to do something. So again, that hints at the story arc at Moon, which we never see. There's loads of different things really that are missing in certain areas that I feel need to be really told, or at least told in a right way, sorted out, rather than just sort of being left loose. Because to me right now, the whole storyline feels very, very unfinished. I know quite a lot of people agree with that, and it's just a bit odd. I don't like things being really unfinished in like stupid ways for no apparent reason. I feel like they need to be finished in a good, decent chunk way, rather than just sort of being left loose as little bits. And yeah, anyway, so that it just feels weird. Anyhow, so to me, the reason why Treyarch would make a DLC 5 is to make the maps, and these would all be remakes, by the way, there wouldn't be any new ones, of like Moon, which would explain what they were doing on the Moon, the Origins crew, possibly changing the events that happen during Moon, or maybe another event that happens in time, I don't know. Also going to Mob of the Dead and getting the blood vials and seeing what happens there. But there'll be plenty of other things, I'm sure, around the way. Even going to Ascension to figure out about Gersh and possibly stopping all the events that happen to Gersh from happening in the first place. If we all go back quickly to Gorod Krovi, at the end, when Richtofen releases the souls into the sky in the portal, he actually says to Maxis, "We'll see you very soon," which to me meant that they didn't go straight to Revelations afterwards. And even during that cutscene, you see them teleport in, but it seemed like they teleported in quite a bit of time later than they planned to, possibly, or something like that. But anyway, what were they doing? Again, this comes into the story aspect not being filled in my opinion. What were they doing between the end of Girl Crovy and the beginning of Revelations? Where were they? What were they up to? To me, I feel like they might have gone somewhere else to sort out some events that possibly happened. Because like they met Gersh in Girl Crovy, and obviously they end up giving him to Sophia, and Sophia basically kills him. Possibly they might have gone back to Assumption, where they saw what happened and changed the events of Yuri getting Gersh inside the oh god, ether. There we go. Inside the ether, and then obviously stopping him from becoming the orb that he is. This is very possible, and you see all these little bits and bobs that aren't answered, which in the end could be answered very easily, in my opinion, with a DLC 5, with, well, all these remakes and maps, which are looking at a different story arc to what they originally used to look at. And they would actually be quite interesting story arcs, I think. So I really like to see these things happening, and I think it's a real strong possibility. So that's just my perspective of it all, and I know there'll be people that agree with me on that, because it's obvious. There's so many things that are left empty. Anyhow, so that's the other perspective of it. Anyway, going on to the main point here. Sorry for rambling on a little bit at the beginning there, but I did have to get that point across. This is obviously trying to show how DLC 5 could be, and I'm trying to bring across the evidence a bit at the same time as telling you the things that already exist that don't make any sense. Anyway, so now I want to move on to this big lot of evidence. In case you guys don't know in the zombies community, most people do, so I'd be surprised if you don't. There have been these comic book series which are all about the transit crew. I know nobody really likes the transit crew, fair enough, but anyway, it talks about the transit crew, and it talks about what they do. We still don't know whether the comics are set after Buried or before Buried. It's very confusing, or whether they're in a completely different time universe from Black Ops 2's version. I don't know yet. We'll probably find out very soon. But for now, I am going to go with the events after Buried. Again, I don't know if that's right, but that's just what I'm going with. And yes, it's all about them doing their different things, and it's coming across a bit more and more now of how this comic book fits into Black Ops 3 now, and how it's linking to some of the other maps, which is good, because it's answering a few questions that are left unanswered, which I really like. But anyway, at the end of every single one of these comics so far, there's only been 3 at the moment, there's about to be a 4th one very soon, there is a new loading screen. And these are loading screens that we've seen in the past of original maps. However, they're changed. They're completely different. So they add in something, I don't know, well, obviously I'll show you an example in a minute, but they add in different elements to, there's an example here, the Nakdan Tolton loading screen. This is obviously the original one, but obviously in the new one they add in new different elements, which I'm going to go through in detail in a minute. And they've done this throughout every single one of these at the moment, and they're sort of sitting at the end of these comics for no apparent reason. Like, there's no reason for them to be at the end of the comic. They don't provide any story to the Transit Crew's comic. They don't provide any story to anything else. They're just sort of sitting there. It's almost like Treyarch are basically trying so hard to tell everyone. Either we're completely trolling you by putting these here and we're just showing you different things that could happen from a different parallel universe stuff, because obviously if you didn't know, like, everything's happening in different timelines now, and different dimensions and stuff. But anyway, either they're doing it like that and they're trolling a bit, or they are actually showing that there is a possibility of remakes, and they're showing it in a loading screen as a little teaser, rather than, like, obviously making it all inside a big map pack and then releasing it out as a trailer. This is quite interesting, and I like this aspect actually, because it's a neat way of looking at things, and it really just shows you the fine detail that they go into with these things, and how they hide it in a very sneaky way, but at the same time they throw it in front of your face to make it so obvious. It's really clever, and I really like it. So I think it's probably the best thing they've ever done. If they are releasing this as a DLC pack, this is probably the best way they've ever done it, in my opinion, because it's just so sneaky almost. It's just really cool, and I like it, rather than having it thrown at me and I know that it's coming and I know everything about it and so on. But yeah, so there's that. Quickly, before I go into these loading screens here, I also wanted to say the other reason why it's got me kind of believing that it's possible now is because of the most recent thing that Treyarch's been doing. And most of these comments that Treyarch are leaving are not troll comments. In fact, none of them are really troll comments. They're all, well, normal comments actually, which surprises me. But the fact is that people are actually talking about DLC 5, you know, and there's this huge chat going on about it, and Treyarch will take the time to actually come along and respond to some comments. When did they ever do this before? When did they ever respond to even comments about normal DLCs? They never do this. And why would they do it if they had nothing to gain from it? It seems stupid and a waste of their time when they could be spending that time either making their next game or making the DLC 5 or something. The fact is that they're actually replying back to comments, but they're replying back to them in rather normal ways, not a troll way or anything, and it's hard to really explain it and everything without showing you it, and unfortunately I can't really show you it, but it's almost like they're sort of sitting there going, this is happening, but we just can't tell you it's happening. It's just sort of the vibe that I've got from seeing some of these comments and hearing about them. So I have this feeling about that. Also, if you hadn't noticed, a lot of the big YouTubers like Glitching Queen, the Gaming Revolution and stuff, have supposedly got this reliable source who has told them and shown them, which interests me quite a bit here, shown them evidence that DLC 5 is actually coming to be. So they now know that it's for real. And also the fact that Glitching Queen now seems to be teasing it's something for DLC 5 after quite a few of her videos now, or during them, which is also quite interesting, because why would she do that? I don't know, it's just a few of these little bits and bobs here that are sort of just coming out of nowhere now, and it interests me quite a bit. And I think I'm starting to believe more in DLC 5 now than I ever have before in my life, really, in the past. There's so much evidence to back it up this time that it seems really likely, but at the same time I'm not guaranteeing that it's coming out, because I don't know that. Possibly if I saw this source as evidence or something, then yeah, maybe I instantly say, yeah, alright, it's definitely coming out, because I'd have proper evidence. But I don't have that at the moment, so I can't just say that. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the loading screens here, because these are the things that really show that there's meant to almost be a DLC 5, but it doesn't confirm anything. So yes, all of these pictures you're looking at are real. None of them are fake. They have come from both the original map in the game and also the comic book. And then also one of the other ones at the bottom, which is the moon one, the new moon one, came from the little conference thing that they had before Black Ops 3 release, which I can't remember the name of. But anyway, yes, it came from that, and it came from Treyarch themselves, so it's not fake. Okay, so anyway, let's get on with this. So as you can see here on the screen, which I've had throughout the whole of the video so far, this is the original Nacta Untold loading screen, right? So, even to this day, I don't think anyone's been able to figure out what the hell this loading screen is on about. I'm not surprised, because it's confusing as hell. There's really nothing to sort of look at zombies and go, yeah, I reckon, no, I don't. This is the problem, you see. There's nothing here that I can just pinpoint into zombies, other than I can say that it looks almost to me, obviously I don't know if this is right because this thing's still a mystery to this day, like this person here on the left is the controller of the zombies. Possibly this is Maxis training the zombies, like we heard in that radio and DeRees, the original one. Or maybe it's one of the other scientists, or even possibly Richtofen, training zombies. And then obviously we got over here that same figure in front of a load of zombies, and it looks like he's controlling them. If we come over here to the right, you could see that these people are all walking in a straight line, and I don't know if they're walking through a tear or not, it's hard to tell. But they're all walking in a straight line, they're obeying orders, right? So obviously obeying something that somebody's telling them what to do, because you don't just normally walk in a straight line like that for no apparent reason. So yes, I think someone's controlling them there. And then obviously if we come down to this bottom one, they're all sitting in front of computer screens, which is the one that really mind blows me a bit, because at no point do we see zombies like that on computer screens in zombies. So this picture just mind blow me a bit, and well, again, maybe it's just a reference to the guy controlling zombies. I really don't know, it's a bit iffy that. And then we come over here to this top one again on the right, which then confuses me again, because we got this guy, I presume it's the same guy, who's controlling these zombies or people, just standing in what looks like a warehouse or a Russian warehouse, staring at boxes. I have no idea what this is all about, and I can't explain it, sorry, but he's just doing something. Anyway, then down here we have this portal, and obviously it's a figure walking into it, or possibly a figure walking out of it. A lot of people seem to think that this could have been the Pentagon thief because of the little numbers that are all around him, which makes sense. I can actually sympathise with that. But why? I don't really know. So yeah, well, that's the best I can do to explain this. Sorry. Anyhow, so yes, that is the original NAT loading screen. If we go to the new one now. So this was at the end of the third comic book that's released, and as you can see, it's the same loading screen, same pictures, like design, but they completely changed it to match, if you can't recognise it already, Mob of the Dead. And yes, I will explain it and get into it with you. So, if we go back to this picture on the left, who does this guy look like? I mean, there's one clear thing that really gives it away, and that's this baton here. This is Brutus, or the Warden, whatever you want to call him. Anyway, this is him. So this is Brutus, or the Warden from Mob of the Dead. If we then go over here, this again, I presume is Brutus, or the Warden, controlling inmates. What looks like inmates, I guess, or maybe it's him mucking around with some sort of hell-like thing, which he shouldn't be doing, but it's very possible, because I know that the Warden has a lot of hell-related things inside his office, so I don't know, it might be possible that. If we go over here again, you can see now that there are bars over here on the wall, which indicates the cells, and you can see all of these guys are inmates. And they're obviously being ordered to walk straight in a line like before in the previous one. And you've got shuffle shuffle at the top. I don't know whether that's trying to indicate that they are just walking slowly in a line and being mind controlled, or whether they're zombies. That's very, very iffy one. We'll have to see. I'm going to then move on to this one up the top right for a minute, and I'll explain why in a sec. So if we go over to this one, originally where he was in a warehouse, he is now the Warden, obviously the Warden, because you can see the baton again, standing and looking at the cells in Mob of the Dead. This is very clear, it's very obvious. Then it looks like what is down here, the cryo chambers, may be behind him, but it's a bit hard to tell, but I think that could be it. Moving down here, we have these cryo chambers. Where do you remember these from? Dreisendrach? Dempsey 1.0 inside it? Yeah, I thought you might. Anyway, so yeah, like there's 4 of them here. Why are those here? They were never in Mob of the Dead before, so why are they here now? To me, this indicates possibly that the Mob of the Dead crew are inside cryogenic chambers, and that possibly, even though they're dead, and obviously when you play Mob of the Dead you're playing as them in purgatory mode, instead now you can see that their corpses were obviously kept because they might be important for some reason. Anyway, it's either going to be that, or it's going to be something for the Origins crew. I'm not sure what. Maybe it's for them to get into so that they can go into a purgatory state in order to find the Mob of the Dead crew, so that they can get the blood vials from them. I really don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. But that kind of sums that up. Rather than those screens that were in the previous one, it's very different, that. Finally, we move over to this, what was originally a portal with, well, what we predict was the Pentagon thief walking out of it. If we look at it now, you can see that it's very different. There are no numbers. There's now 4 silhouettes inside this portal. Still a portal, but if we look at the silhouettes, it's quite obvious who they all are. This person at the front, you can tell via the hairdo and like the scruffy jacket and stuff, is Richtofen. That's very obvious. You can tell from the person on his right easily by the hat, Nikolai. You can then tell roughly, in my opinion, the person behind Richtofen here on the left is Dempsey. And then if we go back here behind what I think is Dempsey is Takio, mostly because of the way his hair is shaped, and also the trousers look a bit like Takio's. So this is obviously the Origins crew coming into Mob of the Dead. This is obvious. This is them coming in for their blood vials. So there you go, that sums that up, and obviously it goes through a time period, but there you go. This to me indicates, if there's a Mob of the Dead remake coming, which seems very likely at the moment, we're going to be looking at it from a very different point of view. We're going to be looking at it from the Origins crew point of view rather than the Mob of the Dead crew's point of view, which would be interesting to see, and I'm kind of looking forward to that because I think it'd be quite interesting, and I want that bloody story finished properly, so we'll see. Okay, moving on to the second loading screen that we got. This is the original Ascension loading screen, in case you never played Ascension. And what we have over here is either Dr. Groff, most likely Groff, maybe Yuri, working on something. Then over here in the middle we got the Ascension rockets, which spell out 115 in the background. Oops, sorry. Spell out 115 in the background on the floor. and then we have part of the base, and then also some schematics for something or other. It's kind of hard to tell what that is for. Underneath, and then we have a little room. This, to me, I always thought was that little spinny thing in the spawn room of Ascension, the little pod that you sit in, but maybe not, maybe it's just a test chamber. And then on the right we have somebody who looks like he's going into a portal, which again I think is Gersh being sucked into the ether. So that's the original loading screen for Ascension. I apologise first of all before I go on about this for the blurriness of this. Unfortunately it's the best picture I could find of this, which kind of annoys me. But I will explain everything so that you should be able to understand what it's showing. So apologies in advance. Anyway, this is the new Ascension loading screen. This came with comic book 2 at the end of it. So if we look over here on the left now, we have Dr. Monty drawing out a schematic, and obviously you can't see it because of it being blurry, and I apologise for that again. He is drawing out the KM44, which is the schematic that we found on the Giant, and that we seem to see that gun everywhere. Anyway, it will have some significance. It looks like he's in his perfect world drawing this out, which is interesting. Anyway, we then go over to the middle again, and this time instead of the Ascension rockets, these are the Horizon Drive rockets, which surprises me a bit here. I'm not sure why those would be an Ascension map, but I guess that will be explained possibly. The silhouette of the 115 is now gone. There is nothing, it's just a straight silhouette, which is surprising. We then go underneath here, where the blueprint was before, and you can see it's now the blueprint of the Dragon, which you see on Zetsubo no Shima. And it's very clearly the Dragon. You can tell by the shape of it, and also like the spikes and everything. So yes, there's a Dragon blueprint there now. Also, we go back up to this picture here. This is now changed to be Samantha, looking through a bubblegum machine. So this is basically, in my opinion, Treyarch confirming that there will be gobblegums on the new Ascension remake if they make it, which is interesting to see that, and also the fact that she probably doesn't even know what they are. And then finally we have over here what looks like a keeper coming out of a portal, or possibly being sucked into the portal again. Now the thing about this is, the only thing that turns me away from this being a keeper is the fact that there's 4 fingers on the hands, whereas keepers normally have 3, as far as I've been seeing anyway. They've always had 3 fingers, which I don't quite understand, unless that was an intentional mistake to confuse you, or possibly these might be the Nova Crawlers actually before they turn into a proper Nova Crawler form and they're like a keeper state. Because in my opinion, and I know some other people agree with it, the Nova Crawlers are keepers, I think, and they were just taken and mutated on by Group 935. Possibly that could be what this figure is. I don't know. Or maybe it's a cursed corrupt keeper, or possibly an apothecon of some sort. It looks like a keeper though, and it's replaced Gersh, which again makes me believe that if we come back to Ascension, we're saving Gersh and getting rid of somebody else instead. So yeah, that's the way I look at that. Anyway, so obviously what I can take from this loading screen here is that they're definitely teasing Ascension coming back, that there'll be gobblegums in it, which I was expecting anyway, and that Gersh might be saved this time, or possibly it'll be a new enemy altogether. I don't know, but something along those lines. I know people are probably thinking, well, does that mean dragons will be coming into Ascension? I highly doubt it. It doesn't really seem like a map for dragons, in my opinion, but if they do put dragons in Ascension, then well, it's a new one on me anyway. So there you go, that's the new loading screen for Ascension. So far we've had Mob of the Dead and Ascension teased to us. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this loading screen, or loading screens, are of Moon. Now, Moon wasn't, or hasn't so far anyway, been in one of the comic books. I don't know, it could come in comic book 4 or 5 or whatever, but so far we haven't seen it. The reason Moon is on here is because it was in a conference. I think I remember the name of it now. Is it DICE? Yeah, it rings a bell. The DICE conference, which was just before Black Ops 3 released, where they were talking about what they did on zombies in the past, and they released this new Moon loading screen out of the blue, which surprised the hell out of everyone. No one was expecting it. So I kind of am putting it in here because, again, it's like Treyarch teasing that they're going to remake Moon, possibly, or whether they're just teasing the events that happen in Black Ops 3 have changed the events that happen on Moon that we originally caused. I don't know for sure. Again, I can't really prove any of this until I have concrete evidence, but we'll go through it anyway. So I'm not going to go through all this because, let's be honest, there's too much of it. But you can see what it is there, and I will point out anything that's changed, although as far as I'm aware there isn't anything that's changed on the new one versus this. I should recognise it though, but this is all stuff from maps before Moon, when Moon was the newest map coming out. Other than the gamma ray specs, those... actually, no. Those did come, sorry, those are on the Pentagon Thief, my bad. So yeah, everything on here did come beforehand. I'm going to concentrate on this side. So the right hand side, you've obviously got the meanwhile, and you can see the pyramid there from Moon floating in the background. And then you've got the Moon, obviously, but you've also got Samantha's shadow. It's obviously Samantha because she's holding a teddy bear. And it's a shadow going all the way over the Moon towards the biodome, as you can see there. And yeah, well, that sums that one up. Then if we come down to this little picture, again you've got the pyramid, and it's hard to tell whether this is what Moon was before they fully built it or not, because that looks like the MPD sort of, or maybe a early version of it or something, I don't know. Or maybe it's one of the temples from Shangri-La. It's really hard to tell. Anyway, the point is, you never see this on Moon unless it was the MPD, so it's really hard to tell. Anyhow, but you can see in the background of this trench, because all these space people are in a trench, there's a little, what looks like a bridge, which I presume is the space station, which you're on, Gryphon Station. And obviously you've got the space people, which are either people building the station, or maybe it's Takeo Dempsey and Richtofen, or it's just a load of zombie astronauts. It's impossible to tell, really. And then obviously on this one here you've got the digger, which is digging up the Moon. However, and I always have to point this out to everyone because nobody seems to address this. If we look up to the top of this picture, this little white thing to me looks like the Moon. But the question is, why would that be there when this is on the Moon, digging up the Moon? I don't quite understand how this works, but you know, something's going on there. Anyway, so that's just the way I look at that. But this is the original Moon loading screen. If we now go down, we have the new Moon loading screen. Now, obviously, there is a tiny difference here. You obviously have on the left the original one that you saw in the background, and now you have the new one here. with George Romero from Call of the Dead is new on here, which you never saw before. The gamma rays are actually missing the picture now. There's no free shopping thingy that used to be there, and so on. There's just a few differences there, but nothing too huge. Now if we come over here to the right, again we've got these two top pictures. The pyramid's still there. You've still got the moon here, but what's different? The little base that used to be there, the biodome, is now gone. Samantha's shadow is now gone. If we now come down to this little trench bit that used to be around, everything else is the same except for now, instead of 4 astronauts, there's 2. And instead of them walking towards the space station, Griffin Station, they're walking towards us, basically. I don't know what this is trying to represent, but yeah, well, they're walking towards us, that's all I can say. And then finally, we have Samantha's shadow now replacing what used to be the digger. This is Samantha's shadow in Shangri-La. This is very, very obvious. And as you can see, the orange in that, I wish I had a picture of Shangri-La's loading screen, sadly I don't. You can actually cut out this little image here and stick it on the Shangri-La loading screen, and it fits perfectly. And I don't know what this was trying to represent. Maybe this was trying to represent that Samantha, after you change the events that happen in the Giant, sorry, I lost the name of the map for a minute. When you shoot Richtofen, obviously it means it changes everything else, like what happens on Moon and stuff. Maybe this changes where Samantha's teleported to. Maybe she didn't go to the moon at all, but instead went to Shangri-La. I don't know, it's really hard to tell, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this. But yes, this is the new Moon loading screen, so obviously if there's a remake of Moon, it's going to be very different. I think, even though there's no biodome there, I think the biodome would still exist, because it'd be a bit odd without it. And I'm not sure what would happen on Moon instead, but it still looks like there's something important on Moon with this picture here to me. So I'm guessing something will happen with Moon, but we'll have to see. I can't really speculate anymore on Moon because there's just not enough evidence. Sorry, there really isn't. But I still thought it was worthwhile showing you this anyway because it still is relevant in my opinion. But it, to me, is teasing a possible Moon remake, so there's that. Finally, we come on to Nuketown. Now, Nuketown is a very... well, to me, it seemed like a bit of a almost filler map, which didn't really need to exist. However, the loading screen for Nuketown sort of suggests otherwise. Anyway, yes, Nuketown for some reason got a new loading screen, which could indicate that Nuketown is coming back as a remake. In some ways it doesn't surprise me, there are so many remakes of Nuketown now, it's almost always going to happen. Anyway, so yes, so this is the original Nuketown loading screen. When I first ever saw this loading screen, it didn't at any point to me make me look at it and go, yeah, this is Nuketown, because everything that I see in this, everything basically, except for possibly this guy down here, doesn't relate to Nuketown to me. It just sort of relates to something else. It's a bit like the Nat.Untot loading screen. It's hard to understand. Anyway, what I can look at from this is it's hard to explain this because I don't really know how to explain it, but it's like they've got this big machine that's basically being tested as possibly a weapon or something, and they're shooting it into the ground, and obviously if we come over to the right you can see that the machine's now made a big massive hole in the ground, and it's done quite a bit of damage. Then if we come down here, you've got the guy that's obviously, I presume, looking at this machine that's made a hole in the ground or something. And then over here, I don't really know what this is, just some random part of the drill thing or whatever that is. I don't know. But the only thing that ever stood out to me as a bit odd about this is here, right, where this drill is, you've got clouds and you've got mountains. Over here on the right, you've got the same, and you've got some ground and green grass and that. If we come down here to this guy, why has he got bubbles coming out of his like mask? It almost looks like he's underwater, but at the same time, how can he be underwater when this is going around like on ground? You can see what I meant earlier in the video when I was talking about there are a lot of questions that are just unanswered and sort of things that are thrown in there for no reason. And this has always sort of made me think, you know, why is this like this? There's no real reason for this, and I never understood it. But anyhow, maybe we'll get an answer to that one day. So that was the original Newtown Zombies loading screen. This is the new one. Okay, so yes, it's quite different from what we saw. In fact, it's very different. And, you know, this loading screen kind of answers what I just couldn't answer on the previous loading screen. And I deliberately did that with the last loading screen because I wanted to bring this point across that they need to start filling in things for story that don't make any sense. And that's what they've done here, in my opinion. But this is the new Newtown loading screen. This is the last loading screen that I have that's new. This came with Comic Book 1. So what we have here, again, is the drill in the previous picture, but a much further back view of it. And as you can see, there's two guys here looking through binoculars at this now hole in the ground. But they're inside a control room. And obviously you can see that what is in the background of the whole mountain and cloud and that is most likely fake, and it's just like a board or something that's just there to make it look interesting. But everything is underwater in there, as you can now see. It is obvious that that's all underwater. And this thing, a drill or whatever it is, I still can't answer that. Is blowing up a hole in the crater in the ground, and it's done quite a bit of damage. So that's showing that. If we come over to the right, again we have concrete proof now that this is underwater, this main bit, and you can see that it's just a better view of the hole in the ground. And if we come down here to what we originally had of the guy, which was too zoomed out because you couldn't see it, is now zoomed out. Sorry, did I say too zoomed out? I meant to say too zoomed in. Is now zoomed out enough to be able to tell what's going on. This is a guy in like the Newtown gear, in a control room, and you can see that the bubbles are not coming from him, they're actually from the container in the background, and he's doing something important, I presume, in that control room. If we then come to the right, we now have the original picture of that, what do you call it, it's like part of the metal mechanic bit of the drill. To me this looks like the drill anyway. It kind of makes sense from the way it's designed and the way it looks like the top of the drill. And yeah, well, that's the new Newtown loading screen. I mean, I'll be surprised in some ways if Treyarch view Newtown Zombies as an important map to remaster, but fair enough. I guess it must be quite important to them if they're going to remaster it. But yes, this is hinting at a possible Newtown remake. Possibly. Anyhow, so that's all the loading screens I have to show you. So all you can see from all these loading screens is a lot of new detail added into previous loading screens. Like I said before, this could literally just be Treyarch explaining more story in little loading screens rather than making like a whole map or a whole comic book about it all, to make it faster, you know. So it's just a quick little glimpse of, yeah, this is what we were trying to tell you, or this is what you need to know now. And that could just be that, or this is them hinting at remakes for DLC 5. I don't really know. Like I said, I don't have any concrete evidence at all, but hopefully I might get some in the future, which would be nice. So we have, I'm not sure how many comic books we have left now. I think we've got another 3 or 4, I'm not sure, maybe less, coming out. I know that 4 will be coming out soon, and I presume at the end of that we'll have another loading screen. What I predict to see in that loading screen, this is just my prediction, just because it seems like such a relevant map that it would make sense if it did come, is Origins. I'm expecting to see some form of like previous loading screen change to look like Origins now. Origins to me seems like a really, really big one that in theory should come back. The fact that Jason teased that we were going to use the staffs, I know Jason is a troller, so it makes it hard to take anything that he says seriously, but anyhow, he said that we were going to use the staffs again. Well, not use them, but he said we were going to see them again. And we did in Revelations on a little billboard, and we also saw them at the very end during the cutscene. However, I don't think that's going to be it. And I can see if they... this is the thing, right? If they make Origins again, I think they would do more than just make it what it was before. I think they would remake Origins as it is after Revelations. So this ending that all of us are wondering about and don't have properly answered might get answered for a remake of Origins. And you might be able to turn the tides and the events that happened in Origins that we originally did, and stop that from happening and make everything right, but in a different way. And yeah, it's all quite complicated unless I sat here for ages and explained it. But I can see them doing that, and it would make sense. And Origins is actually quite a key map to the story in my eyes, so it would be stupid for them not to bring it back. But anyhow, that's all the evidence and things all together of DLC 5 at the moment. Proper evidence, anyway. Now, I'm going to briefly go over what I would like to see in DLC 5. In general, what maps I want to see and how I might like to see them changed. So, what I think would come back as DLC 5 would be all the maps that previously had the original crew. So that's the 1.0s of Dempsey, Takeo, Nikolai and Richtofen. I could see all of them coming back. So that would be Nacht Anton, Verrat, Shinonima, Deriz we've already had, so I won't count that. Kino, Ascension, Call of the Dead probably, in some shape or form. Shangri-La and Moon, and obviously those are the maps that are quite important to this kind of story, because they all relate to the Origins crew as well, because obviously it's their other versions of themselves, and they're kind of like the same people, so it all is kind of relevant in some shape or form, which is why if they did bring out a DLC 5, in my opinion, it would be them probably answering things that we never got an answer for, like at the end of Moon with the original crew, and probably changing events that happen throughout these maps in different ways. I don't know, possibly if we went to Shangri-La, we might even see Michelle, whatever her name is, I can't remember her second name, the girl from Call the Dead. Anyway, we might see her in Shangri-La in some shape or form, trapped instead of the two guys that were there, because in Revelations now we hear that she's trapped in Shangri-La, and she basically dies and just keeps coming back to life, because obviously Shangri-La is like a what do you call it? It's like a parallel dimension thing that just loops again and again and again. It's basically like almost a purgatory state, like you see in Mob of the Dead, only it's not purgatory in Shangri-La. It's quite hard to explain, but anyway, I could see that happening with Shangri-La, and possibly something to do with the Samantha shadow that we saw on Moon in Shangri-La now, possibly freeing the Samantha that disappeared during the Giant. In some shape or form. Ascension, like I said before, I think we'll be saving Groff. In Call of the Dead, now that's an interesting one. It depends when we go there. If we go there before the crew, like the Call of the Dead crew go there, which would make more sense to me, then it's more than likely that we'll be seeing what the original versions of the characters did on Call of the Dead, or tried to do anyway and failed to do, or possibly we'll go back to Call of the Dead when Richtofen used to be there before, just by himself, plotting things, so you would see something going on there and change that from ever happening, possibly stopping the Call of the Dead crew from ever being, well, killed in the first place. Kino is a hard one. Kino's very limited story. I don't really know what you would go back for in that regard. I would almost say it would probably be just to stop Group 935 from ever doing experiments at Kino in the first place. That's about all I can really think of for Kino, unfortunately. Shino Numa is probably to stop Richtofen from mind controlling the original characters, to get them to do his bidding. Varux might be to go and save Dempsey from being captured, possibly even save Peter, as Peter needs to come back in some shape or form again, I believe, really, and be explained a bit, and maybe even the other American soldiers. Varux, sorry, I said Varux, what I'm on about. Matt Dunn what can I really say for that? There's really not a lot you can say for that one, other than maybe something what actually happened story-wise there this time. We'll just leave it at that, shall we? Obviously Moon, like I said, will be possibly going to stop some event from happening, probably stopping Group 935 from ever setting up something on the Moon in the first place. And that basically sums it up perfectly. Obviously I still think that Mob of the Dead is a must remake, which would be obviously the Origins crew going to get the blood vials. And then Origins again I think is a must remake, which would be explaining the end of Revelations and probably changing events from happening, which would make a lot of sense again to me. And those two are the ones that really I think should be remade and stand out to me. Not just because I think they're the best maps, but just in general they've got so much that they could tell story wise. But then again, the other maps that I did mention I think are very possible candidates as well. The maps, again, Newtown is supposedly going to be a candidate. I'm really leaving that on the iffy list, but whatever. The maps that I can definitely say that probably will never be remade, or at least I don't think they will. If they are, that's incredible, but I really doubt it. Transit, because number one, people hate it. Also, it's the Transit crew. It's got nothing to do with the Origins crew. They have no reason to go there. Die Rise, again, Transit crew. Origins crew have no reason to go there. Buried, in theory, yes, you've got the whole Richtofen and Max is taking over thing, but that can be changed through Moon and stuff. So again, no real reason to go there. I can't really see Buried ever being remade. And yeah, well, that's pretty much it. Oh, 5, sorry, I nearly forgot about it. 5 was always, to me, like a little bonus map. So it's a really good map. I love 5, but it just has no real relevance in the story. It's got a bit of relevance, yes, but not enough. So I can't really see that ever coming back. It's possible, but it's very unlikely. And yeah, well, that's it really. I mean, I don't think I've missed any other maps off the list as far as I'm aware. So that's the sort of thing that I think could happen. However, I don't think all of those would be remade because that's quite a lot of work for Drought. It's possible, but I don't know. The ones I think that they would skip on are probably Nats, Virat and Shino Numa because they've done those in the past. I don't really know what they'll do in that regard. They may even skip Call of the Dead because fair enough, that's not that relevant. But that's just what I think altogether. So the last thing I'll say is what the YouTubers like Glitching Queen and that have confirmed as a remix coming, which is Moon, Ascension, Mob of the Dead and Origins. They've confirmed this from the source. Again, I really want to believe it, I really do, but on the other hand, if you look at it, I just got to look at that map list and think to myself, Origins, one of the most popular maps ever in Zombies. Mob of the Dead, one of the most popular maps ever in Zombies. Ascension, one of the most loved maps ever in Zombies. And then Moon, one of the most important, and everyone loved the Easter egg and everything. And also the whole change was so awesome at the time. Mapping Zombies for everyone. See the pattern here. That's the only reason why I question it. There's nothing in there that I can see that's sort of like, oh, Shangri-La. Yeah, not many people like that, but there you go. See, it's iffy. I don't know. It would make sense from Treyarch to do it as a business point of view, like remaking maps that everyone loves. Fair enough, I understand that, I respect that, but again, I just don't see Treyarch just doing that, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, that is all I can sum up. The DLC 5, that's literally all I can sum up for it. This has probably been quite a bloody long video for that reason. If you stuck through it all, then thank you, I appreciate that. Obviously I really wanted to go through the facts, I wanted to really show everything that's possible for if it ever happens, DLC 5. That's all the evidence that I've found so far and can show you. Obviously when the new comic book issues release and we get more comic book screens, I'll be sure to show you those and talk and explain about them in the future. And yeah, well, actually I really want to hear what every one of you lot thinks. Do you think DLC 5 is possible? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it's likely? If you do, what maps do you want to see come back? And if you want to see those maps come back, why? What do you want to see in particular that would change them to make them better? That could be story-wise or gameplay-wise or anything. It doesn't matter. Just tell me what you guys think. I'll be really interested to hear what you have to say, and actually it'd be cool to see what the community as a whole thinks about this in the first place. It's taken me a while to make this video, and I mean a while, because I've always sort of just debated about it because I felt like I've never had enough evidence. However, I felt like there was just enough this time to justify making it a bit, and there's enough to sort of scoop up and gather and give to you guys to explain it to you. Okay, so there's one very last thing which I did forget to talk about earlier. a lot of people are speculating that in March Remastered month, which is what this month is to Call of Duty, that the last Tuesday of this month will be a announcement or possibly a trailer of DLC 5 for Black Ops 3. It's possible, but unlikely. I feel like the remastered month makes sense for it to be Call of Duty 4 because that is the newer game, and it just makes sense for them not to put two CODs like that together in 1 month, especially when they put so much focus on COD 4 and then they give about a week's focus on Black Ops 3's DLC 5. It just doesn't make sense to me, them doing that. If they want sales and things on the DLC 5 for Black Ops 3, which Activision would really want, they want to make sure that they hype it up as best they can and that they can give it a good time period to spread it out on and advertise it on and make sure people talk about that, rather than quickly going over it and then, for example, an Infinite Warfare DLC 2 comes out and then everyone's focusing on that, which would be silly if they did it in that business point of view. But people speculate that apparently on the 28th of March, that is a Tuesday, that they're going to announce something for Zombies for DLC 5. If they do, that's really cool, and I'll be really happy about that, and I'll be sure to update you guys on that and get everything as much as I can, all the information about it. But I can't see it happening personally myself, but if it does, like I said, I will let you know. Anyway, that's it for DLC 5. If you guys have heard any other news about DLC 5 that I haven't and I don't know about, please do let me know and also everyone else know in the comment section below, because it'd be really useful to update everyone on this stuff as it keeps coming, in general, just so everyone knows what they know and keep up to date with everything that everyone else knows, which would be good. But I've gone through everything that I can for DLC 5. I've gone through all the stuff that I would want from it as well. I hope you guys did manage to sit through all this, and if you did, I appreciate it, and well done, congratulations, you've made it through a DLC 5 chat video. I know, like I said at the beginning, I'm sure this will probably get quite a bit of disliking and stuff because, well, it's DLC 5. But I've proven my point. I haven't confirmed anything because I don't know, and like I said, I can't confirm it. That's not my purpose. My purpose was to just show you everything that exists. Obviously, if I was to get proper evidence from the source or another source or whatever, a legitimate source about it, then yes, I would be more like, yeah, it's definitely happening. But at the moment I don't have that, so I can't. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, I appreciate it. And like I said, let me know what you guys think about DLC 5. This was a slightly different Zombies video from what we normally have. Just to quickly clarify at the end of this, because I think I should pretty tell everyone. You may have noticed recently that I did the Gorilla Crover Easter egg with my good friend Machine Gunner on the PS4. I've got some news for you lot. It involves quite a lot of Zombies content. Okay, so let's just put it this way. You've got some no-clip stuff coming onto the channel basically over the next coming days and stuff, which will be me going through the Black Ops 3 maps, and I've done them already, and there's a few that I want to do at Black Ops 2 if I can possibly do it. It's a bit hard at Black Ops 2. And then finish up any of the ones I didn't do on Black Ops 1. And yeah, the no clipping series is quite important to me, so I want to make sure that you guys get every view of the map that you can. And then also we've got some Easter egg tutorial videos coming up. We finally have the Device and Drug Zetsubo no Shima videos created. The tutorials, I mean, which have been in the works for a long time, and those will be coming up. And we also will have, as I basically want to spend quite a lot of time doing it, but I'm sure I could do it a lot faster now as I have a lot more time. The Grog Krovi Easter egg tutorial, which again I will go through and do my best to explain it to you as best as possible. Anyway, so yeah, that's those coming along. I'm always up for doing the Easter eggs on any of the Call of Duty Black Ops games, on the PS4, the PS3 even, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and the PC. Bear in mind though that if you're an Xbox One user, I'm not usually around the Xbox One as much as I used to be anymore, due to the fact that it's in my actual home, and I no longer fully live at home. I live at university, which is college to you Americans. So I don't have it with me anymore as a result. So you would only be able to play with me when I'm down there, which is basically when I'm free down there during the holidays and things. So bear that in mind. But I would be happy to play with you guys because it'd be awesome. And I have been doing that recently, and it's been great fun going back to it. So there you go. Anyhow, I'm going to leave it there. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys. Bye.